Will we visit the Cabal homeworld Torobatl and reclaim it from the claws of Xivu Arath? In new story details, Caiatl speaks about this very task. The story of this world has popped up various times recently. Last episode we had a mini conclusion with Eramis and her echo, attempting to restore Riis or maybe find a new homeworld. So are the Cabal next? Welcome Guardians, let's dive right in. We learned about Xivu Arath's invasion of Torobatl and destruction of it back in Season of the Chosen. Lorebook Empress has a couple of cards that detail what happened, the portal opening in the city and Xivu Arath entering. The following lore comes from some of those chapters towards the end of the book, and then we'll talk about the new lore card. Caiatl loathed the crawling place of the court. She despised the tricky voices of courtiers and generals vying for attention and resources. Sorting out their tedious requests was like fetching long scraping sticks from the bottom of a mud wallow. But one day, a general came to her with a clear complaint. The stench from Umun'arath's rooms permeates the entire east wing of the palace. My lovers choke on toxic fumes simply walking through the halls. Surprised she hadn't heard about it before, Caiatl dismissed him with a promise to investigate the Advocate General's chambers. Later that day, she found that the first of Umun's rooms, usually kept tidy with military precision, was changed. Her two war tables were covered in papers and tomes unrecognizable to Caiatl. The room stank of death and poison. Strange symbols were drawn on the ground in ash. In the far corner of the room, with the restraints they use for captives aboard their prison ships, a living hive thrall was held in suspension, drooling and chattering. "Umun," Caiatl said, astonished. "What's happening here?" Umun turned from one of her war tables where she studied a book that looked to be bound with mottled flesh. "Princess," she said, pleased. "Good. I thought to call you, but I've been so engrossed. Come see the future of the Cabal army." Caiatl approached, intent on looking at Umun instead of the thrall. "They don't fear pain," Umun said. Perverse admiration crept into her voice. "They don't fear death." "Soldiers who don't know pain or fear are useless," Caiatl said, eyeing the Advocate General. "It is the knowledge of death and the will to defy it that together breed bravery. You taught me those texts." "We must move beyond them," Umun muttered, watching the thrall tilt its grotesque face in response to their voice. "With each swing of the sword, the universe grows smaller, Caiatl. The competition fiercer. If we don't learn a new way, we'll be cut down with the rest." Her voice went quiet. "We must accept new gods, or we'll perish." The thrall began to thrash, sudden and violent. Caiatl watched. "I am ordering you to step down from the council," she said after a long silence. It was Tauron, one of Caiatl's advisors, that alerted her to the spectacle. "In the square," she said, her deep voice laced with concern. "I've never seen anything like it." Caiatl went immediately. In the central square of Torobatl's weaponsmith district, a bright green flame licked the air. Umun'arath stood against the blaze, naked but for a waist strap, in the custody of two guards. Her hide was carved with strange, crude symbols. When she saw Caiatl arrive, she threw her head back and laughed. "Here comes the Princess Imperial," she said, "to kneel before our new god." "I am Savathun," whispering. Caiatl strode forward. "Let her go," she told the guards. Reluctant, they did as she asked. "What god, Umun? What heresies have you invented now?" Umun grinned. "The god of war," she said, and the earth trembled beneath them. But the god of war has planted her armies elsewhere. It is her sister, smiling, that has taken the ear of the war child Umun'arath. Caiatl stood before Umun in the flickering green light of fire. "Your obsession is weakness," she said, "and a threat to our prosperity. You can't stop it now," Umun lilted, breathless with delight. "Xivu Arath, hear me." Caiatl didn't break her stare. "I have no choice but to..." Umun, chuckling, raised her hands. They glowed. The fire beneath her burned higher and shattered like rattling bones. "The war is all there is," she said. As the chattering reached a fevered pitch, Caiatl made a decision. With the lightning-quick reflexes Umun had taught her, she unsheathed the ceremonial sword at her side and ran it through Umun's middle. Umun laughed. "You are war, and I conjure you with war and blood." She laughed and laughed and laughed until her mouth began to ooze, until Caiatl, disgusted, pushed her off the sword with her foot. The body tumbled back onto the green blaze. "A gift for my sister." As the fire consumed the corpse, a gargantuan portal opened in the sky. Smoke rose from the city of Torobatl. The sky was dark with tomb ships and threshers. Strange, spindly towers had sprouted from the ground, infecting the streets and alleyways Caiatl had known so well, rendering the landscape alien. Many of the creatures that poured from the tear in the sky had fallen to her missiles, like any other enemy, but their numbers never seemed to dwindle. Their will never seemed to falter. Pinned in the wreckage of a crashed single-pilot fighter, Caiatl caught her breath as gel leaked from her suit. She remembered Umun's words. They don't fear pain, they don't fear death. She wondered how she could have let this happen. How could she have been the one to open that door? Because even as she cursed Umun for starting this, Caiatl was the one who had finished it. It didn't matter that she'd done it unwillingly and unknowingly. That responsibility was still on her shoulders. She cursed Umun and the vermin hive, but more than that, she cursed herself. She was responsible for the destruction of their home. A voice as loud as thunder spoke to her, deafening. "My home is war. My voice is a battle song. For as long as you have worshipped war, you have worshipped me. I am here to claim my tribute. It is overdue."
You would have savored my triumph. How our sister's gift to me was treated with such care. Screams like a choir as their mountains trembled. Screams like a choir as their seas boiled. I stepped down into that world, thrust my sword into the heart of Torobatl, and carved lies from truth.
Not bad. A little sloppy, but we all have our off days.
Play your games and laugh, Witch Queen. But when the time comes, after I have broken and buried your sister, you will be next. I know the role you played in the fall of Torobatl, and I will make certain you pay.
Of course. Because you and the universe would be so much better off if I left you across the galaxy, stewing in the quagmire of ancient politics. Sure, some people died. Sure, you lost a dusty rock. But I think what you gained is worth more than everything you lost. Now prove me wrong.
So that was the moment Xivu Arath invaded Torobatl and it was destroyed. In the entry after that, Chapter 8, Caiatl addresses her Cabal army as they head to Sol System to eventually greet the Guardians. We now come to the lore from the Apostate's Blade cloak from episode Heresy. Caiatl speaks about the journey to possibly reclaim Torobatl, something she still wishes she can do. But some other characters speak to her and try to talk her down. Tell her that while you still want to do this while it's super important to you and your people, it might not be possible anymore. Caiatl measures the distance to Torobatl, not in light years but in lives. Not in star systems, but in these ships that would need to be shored up. The legions reconditioned to the pitch depths of space. It is not a matter of if it can be done, but rather when. How long to wait for human allies? Piling rubble up into fortifications. How long to stamp out the dregs of exiled legions in Sol? Here, Valis Forge has brought her a set of records from the Vanguard. They unfold in sequences of recorded violence, blurry, difficult to parse chitin from armor, and a scrolling list of numbers, a death toll that spikes precipitously. No one likes to speak of it, but the intel's valuable. The Great Disaster. When the Vanguard sought to retake Luna from the Hive. Caiatl knows the story of it. It's not the visceral truth. Has heard it murmured, rumors passed from one to another. But Crota is dead, as is Oryx, and Xivu Arath is severed from her throne world. Even a lightless guardian is still a threat. Valis Forge does not name names. He does not have to. Caiatl is well familiar with Osiris, with Eris Morn, who brought the Hive gods under her heel. Xivu Arath has no refuge, yet it does not mean she is dulled. As any with but one life, they will fight to the death with all that they have and more. Caiatl nods with grave intention. She reviews the records, she changes her variables, and she does the math again.
The traveler's wounds heal as the witness's blight is pushed back. Such a feat gives me hope for the reclamation of Torobatl.
Is that your end goal, Empress? Sol has many worlds, and I would be glad to have you stay rather than wage war over old losses.
It is a matter of pride.
I'm sure other emperors of the past would have said the same, but I also don't see them here. I see someone who was more than her pride. Regardless, I'll be by your side, wherever the fight takes you.
Make no mistake, Caiatl will have her revenge on Xivu Arath, but as equals, one conqueror to another.
So there we have an update of what's sort of going on with Empress Caiatl and Valis Forge in the events of Heresy. She still wants to reclaim Torobatl, maybe we'll visit it someday. But as for now, the two are kind of looking at different variables and realizing, hey, maybe it's not the right time. Xivu is weakened, but what if we just go back to Torobatl and she destroys us again? It wouldn't be worth it. But anyway, if you'd like to see some more Destiny news, lore, and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.